Welcome back to Never Don't Ask with me, John Martin, and we have another station review. This is a special one for me. I grew up in Essex. I used to commute by train to high school. 6 years I travelled from Woodham Ferry Station, as it was then. Changed here both on my way there and way back. I've also family trips to London Southend. We have changed here. I've probably spent more time at this station than any other. The Greater Anglia station of Wickford. And before we hit the intro, I just want to say that it was my plan to review the station this week, even before that derailment on the 14th of August happened. I did a few days of trips around the southeast over summer, and since this station looked the most urgent because of its building works, it got to be the first review of that batch. Growing up down the Southminster branch line, this was an important station for me, not only as the interchange, but because it had a more frequent service. It was a place my dad would often drive to and park or pick me up from. Also, its ticket office sold a wider range of tickets than my local one, so every Friday before the start of term, my mum would come here to buy our season tickets. The station is in the centre of Wickford, reached from the High Street via Station Approach. Traffic can also reach the station from the High Street from Station Avenue. The commercial centre of the town is just to the south. Beyond that is Netherden. Shotgate is to the east and Runwell to the north. We're on the London to Southend Victoria line. Billericay is 4.5 miles to the west. Rayleigh is 4 to the southeast. The Crouch Vale branch line to Southminster diverges here with Battlesbridge 2.5 miles to the northeast. Now let's do some history. The story of Wickford Station really begins in the 19th century when the Great Eastern Railway, usually known as the GER, developed a new railway route through South Essex. An Act of Parliament authorising the railway from Shenfield towards Southend passed in July 1883. Construction of the line began in the mid-1880s, with the railway requiring enormous amounts of earth to be moved, numerous bridges and other structures to be constructed. The railway reached Wickford in 1888. The line between Shenfield and Wickford was opened to goods traffic in November 1888, followed by passenger services at the start of 1889. The station was built by the Great Eastern and was originally known as Wickford Junction. The name Junction was particularly appropriate because Wickford was about to become an important meeting point for several routes. The line from Wickford towards Southend Victoria opened up on the 1st of October 1889, giving the town a direct connection with Southend. At the same time, another route was developed from Wickford towards Southminster on the Dengie Peninsula. The Southminster line was opened for goods traffic on the 1st of June 1889, and passenger trains became running on the 1st of July. There was also a more complicated railway layout around Wickford in those days. The triangular junction existed south of the town, allowing trains to move between the different routes. The railway line from Wickford to Southminster also had a second branch that continued beyond Woodham Ferrers towards Malden through Stolmaries and Cold Norton. This made Wickford more than just a local station. It was a genuine junction where several routes met and where agricultural and passenger traffic could be exchanged. The arrival of railway had a profound effect on Wickford itself. Before the railway, Wickford was a relatively small village. A new station made it much easier to travel to London and Southend and helped attract new residents and businesses. The railway company itself also encouraged development by promoting land sales around the railway. By the early 20th century, Wickford was increasingly getting connected to the growing towns of South Essex. The station was involved in the movement of livestock and agricultural goods. There were cattle and sheep facilities close to the railway, reflecting Wickford's importance as a market centre. In 1894, a stock sale was established near the station. The railway therefore wasn't simply transporting commuters, it was closely connected with the commercial life of the town. During the early 20th century, railway became extremely busy, especially when people travelled from London towards Southend for seaside excursions. Bank holiday weekends between 1900 and 1910, tens of thousands of people could travel from London towards Southend. Wickford benefited from some of this traffic, with passengers sometimes choosing to break their journey here rather than just continue straight to the seaside. In 1911, the Great Eastern Railway even introduced a restaurant car on a morning service. That was how important the line was. Great Eastern Railway remained responsible for Wickford until the major railway reorganisation of 1923, where everything was grouped into the four large companies. Great Eastern became part of London and North Eastern Railway. The LNER era lasted for 25 years. During the Second World War, the railway through Wickford became strategically important, and the stations surrounding railway were affected by enemy bombing. Aircraft followed the railway lines towards London, making the railway infrastructure a potential target, and Wickford suffered several bombs in the area. In 1948, railways nationalised and became part of the eastern region of British Railways. For several years, steam locomotives continued to dominate services. However, the railway was about to go one of its biggest transformations. Shenfield to Southend Victoria was electrified, initially using 1500 volt DC overhead system, with electric operation beginning on the 31st of December 1956. Steam trains were subsequently replaced by the electric multiple units on that route. The electrical system was later converted into 6.25 kilovolt AC in 1960 and ultimately to 25 kilovolt AC in 1979, the system which most of the overhead lines in the country are still using. Wickford's role as a junction also began to change during this period. Old railway infrastructure associated with steam operation gradually disappeared. Turntable at Wickford, which had allowed locomotives to turn around, was closed in 1954. The connection between Woodham Ferrers and Malden already gone in June 1953, removing another part of the network that made Wickford Junction particularly significant. The Bradwell Nuclear Power Station, which opened in the early 1960s, played a part in keeping the Southminster branch line alive, though, with local residents becoming used to that missing passenger service on a Thursday lunchtime as the nuclear fuel train ran down the line. The Southminster branch survived, but it was a much quieter railway. Diesel multiple units were introduced on the branch in the 1950s, replacing steam. Eventually, the branch was electrified, with electric trains beginning in 1986. The 1960s also brought another important change. Goods traffic eventually disappeared, with stations ceasing to handle goods traffic in 1967. From this point onwards, Wickford was increasingly a passenger railway station rather than the mixed passenger and freight junction it had been. British Railways continued to operate the station until 1980s. In 1986, British Rail introduced its sector structure, and Wickford became part of Network South East. It was the organisation responsible for most of the commuter services around London and South East during the final years of British Rail. In 1997 came the privatisation. The Great Eastern franchise, including services through Wickford, was initially awarded to First Group's First Great Eastern, who operated until 2004. Late 1990 was a difficult period for the station building itself. In November 1998, the original station building was badly affected by fire. The upper floor was destroyed, although much of the ground floor survived and continued to be used for many years afterwards. Many parts of the GER building remained in service well into the 21st century. The operator changed again once in 2004, and this was transferred to National Express, initially under the name 1, and then National Express East Anglia, and they operated until 2012. And then Bail took over the Greater Anglia franchise in 2012, began operating under the Greater Anglia name, and they are the current operators of Wickford in the present day. The station has become an increasingly important commuter station. The most dramatic modern change came in 2021. Greater Anglia was introducing its new, longer, classed 720 units. Wickford Station needed its infrastructure upgraded to accommodate them. Platform 1 was extended to be able to cope with the 5-car units, and the work was completed in June 2021, and the extended platform was introduced into service on the 26th of June. The project was carried out jointly by Greater Anglia and Network Rail as part of the same £4 million programme. The old building was demolished to be replaced with new passenger facilities, including a ticket office, waiting area, toilets, information screen, and a shop. We have 4 platforms here. Platforms 2 and 3 are the long through side platforms, with 1 and 4 being the east facing bays. Platform 1 is mainly used by Southminster branch line services and is 122 metres long. Platform 2 is generally for Southend services, but the occasional through train to Southminster uses it. It is 248 metres long. Platform 3 is the London bound platform and is 252 metres long. For a few years when I was commuting to school, a long train from Southend to Southminster ran in the afternoon and reversed on this platform. For added nostalgia value, my Southminster train broke down when I was there reviewing this, and a replacement was sent up from Southend and boarded on platform 3. So yeah, there is at least my review coming from the Southminster branch line at some point in the future, at least one station on it. Platform 4 is another east-facing bay. It is 105 metres long. This used to be used for the occasional Southminster train, but now with Class 720s being 122 metres long, the platform's too short, so isn't in use. At the west end of the station, there is a bay next to Platform 2. This can be used for departmental rolling stock, and there is also some sidings. There also used to be another bay next to Platform 3, but this is no longer in use. Those dapper denizens of departure demographics. The Department for Transport Station Classification Consortium call this a Class C2 station, which is an important feeder. Marks for services, 6 out of 10. Off-peak, there are 3 trains an hour between Southend Victoria and London Liverpool Street. Southend is 20 minutes away, Shenfield is 12, Stratford is half an hour, Liverpool Street is 40 minutes. The Southminster to Wickford service runs every 40 minutes. Southminster is just over half an hour, Southwold and Ferris is 10. During peak times there are more Southend trains, and some of the Southminster trains run through to London. From 24-25 figures, the most popular destination was London Liverpool Street, with 446,071 journeys, followed by Stratford, Southend Victoria, Billericay and Shenfield. Onto the passenger numbers, Wickford had 1,838,264 entries and exits, which is a daily average of 5,036 and a third. There are 1,110 scheduled services per week, which gives us an average of nearly 32 passengers per service. However, this is an interchange, so factoring in those people shuffling on board and off the Crouch Valley line, we get a daily average of 6,151 passengers passing through the station and 46 passengers per service. I did say Crouch Valley line, and I say Crouch Vale at the beginning. It's marketed as Crouch Valley now. It was initially listed as Crouch Vale when I was doing my youthful train enthusiasm days. Passenger numbers are increasing, but they are well below COVID levels. Marked for onwards travel, 4 out of 5. We have the following buses from the bus stop outside the station: the 8, 10, 13, 13A, 13B, 14, X10 Airlink. The 8 runs 4 times a day, morning to lunchtime from Rettington to the station, and the return 3 services around lunch and an evening. The 10 has 3 different routes from the station, either to Basildon Hospital, Billericay, or a loop around Wickford and back to the station. The 13s run once an hour from Chelmsford to Wickford. 13 runs through South Hanningford and Rettington. 13A also goes to Ramsden Heath and Downham, while the B skips South Hanningfield and Rettington, but also goes via Stock. The 14 runs a 10-minute loop around Wickford 4 times in the morning rush hour and 7 times in the evening. It's a great idea for getting people to the station without them having to drive. The X10 runs 24 hours, roughly once an hour from Basildon to Stansted Airport via Chelmsford. On the main road, we also have the 12, 25, 94, 94A, 94B, and the 251. The 12 is Wickford to Billericay hourly. The 25 is Southend to Basildon every 15 minutes. The 94 is roughly hourly between Basildon and Woodham Fair, South Woodham. The 94A has a different route around South Woodham and runs a couple of times a day. The 94B has completely different routes depending on the direction. On its morning run, it goes via Shotgate. On the way back in the afternoon, it doesn't serve South Woodham at all. The 251 runs roughly hourly from Rettington to Worley, the Ford Europe HQ, via Shenfield and Brentwood. Marks for accessibility, 2 out of 10. This station is supposedly staffed. It has displays, it has announcements. Platform 1 and 2 are level access from the street. So why only a 2? Because platforms 3 and 4, not that 4 is used, are not accessible. You have to cross the footbridge to reach them. And it's just steps to the footbridge and also the toilets. There was investment into the station in 2021 and major building work was still going on when I was there, but there is no sign of them putting in a lift. Now, the National Rail website says you can reach Platform 3 from Market Avenue. I have a faint remembering of this opening up when I was there, and from the maps this still looks true, but looking back on my footage, I couldn't find anything. So I'm assuming that entrance was just blocked off by fences and is not accessible. Even if you could, passengers may be arriving from Watford on Platform 3, they want to go to Southminster Platform 1. Maybe a nice bit of posh from Burnham-on-Crouch wants to visit their Billericay Dicky. Heck, my train was cancelled, so I had to get from Platform 1 to Platform 3 pretty sharply. Taking a 10-minute walk down the hill, back round and then back up the other side, it's not acceptable. They may be magicking a lift in the next month or two when the works are done, but there's no evidence of that. Mark for station facilities, 4 out of 10. At this point, I'm a bit puzzled. I've said the work on rebuilding this station happened in 2021 when the old building was demolished, but 5 years on, there is still major building work going on. This wasn't a big station. When I used to travel there, the old station building on Platform 2 was the size of a large house. The whole line to Southend was constructed in less time than this station rebuild. There's a tiny bit of a canopy jutting over the platform from the building works, but there's no covered seating on Platform 2. And I visited on a hot day, not full heat wave, and there was no seating in the shade, no waiting room on that platform. I also couldn't find any sort of ticket office. Platform 3, the building is still standing there with a canopy. There are toilets, a waiting room, as well as a refreshment stand. There's also the Platform 3 Social Club, which is the members-only venue run by the Wickford Railway Club. I'm aware this station is in the middle of a rebuild. I assume middle, but I have to judge Wickford on what was there when I visited, and these aren't the facilities that should be at an interchange station or a busy commuter place. That diligent database of dubious details, the National Rail website, claims that this station has 427 parking spaces, 8 of them accessible. There are also 56 bike spaces. Marks for care and character, 7 out of 20. The rest of the Greater Anglia stations on this line have period station buildings, canopies, bridges. It's not really the same here. Platform 3 is fine. When I say fine, I mean meh. It's not a particularly nice platform with a very 60s feel to the buildings of the canopy. Train staff have their own facilities, but they have squeezed through a gate and into an outbuilding. Aside from the refreshment stall, which has moved from Platform 2, and a ramp to the waiting room, which seems completely pointless as there's no step-free access to that platform at the moment. Anyway, Platforms 3 and 4 haven't changed in like 20 years, apart from Platform 4 is unusable and the north-facing bay is out of use and overgrown. Platform 2 has changed as the buildings have gone. The bridge looked tired, the works look like a mess. We know something is happening here, but there is no character and very little care. Marks for nearby things, 4 out of 10. We are really close to the shopping area of the town. We'd be more close if there was an exit to the station from platform 3, but there wasn't. It was the closest swimming pool to my hometown when I was growing up there, but that pool is best accessed from platform 3, which you can't do. The Aldi store is reachable from the station, as are some of the local shops. Wickford towns grew up around the station, but the commercial side of the town is more accessible from the side of Wickford. Didn't have an exit at the time I visited. Overall, we get 27 out of 65, which is 41%. While we have a really good service to London and a great local transport system feeding to the station, we have substandard facilities and interchange that is well below what I'd expect for a 2020s interchange. Maybe the upgrades will improve things, but my visit is not a station that suits the current climate, especially on accessibility grounds. Once again, thank you for watching as I travel around the country. Please like, subscribe and ring that bell to be notified of the next station review.